My name is Aviv Bershatsky. I'm auditor and CS at Dror Center, Haifa, Israel. First of all, I would like to thank Michael for organizing this great conference. I think this is important for exchange of ideas and communication between us Scientologists. We're not that united, and this conference actually unites us, and it is great purpose. So thank you very much. And this is our group. Those are our staff members. This is Danny and Tammy Lemberger, who established Dror Center in 1992. And we have 3 core supervisors, Emilia, Moti, and Sophie. We have 2 marketing guys, Eitan and Igal. And we have 5 auditors, Tami, Carmela, Dima, Yulia. And pay attention, this is important, this is me. I started to get auditor training when I was 20 years old. I'm 40 now, so I'm old. Hopefully wise. So, and from 22 years old, I'm auditing each day, every day. It's my full-time job. So I'm auditing for 18 years, and I'm case supervising other auditors for 14 years. So this lecture, we're going to talk about Corona, coronavirus, Corona crisis, everything that connects with Corona or with any other crisis for this matter. So I just, I took a random picture with a crown in it, and it says, which is very handy for my lecture, data is king and the king is not dead. Now, before the coronavirus hit your country, you probably heard a lot of data about it from other countries, from your media. So before even the virus came to your country, you already knew about it. So the public knew about the virus. And when the virus hit your country, the media overloaded you, I suppose, with a lot of data on television, on radio, on mass media, any kind of mass media, on social media, and so on and so on. So we received a lot of data. Okay, what was said in Arabic language, because every second word was Corona, okay? I want to ask you, how many people have you contacted during the lockdown, and how much data has contacted you since the beginning of the crisis, right? And what is potentially more contagious? So in the first part of this lecture, I'm going to use references from data series evaluators course. Most of them will be from this pack. The simpler version of it is in the Scientology handbook in the chapter of investigations. By the way, all the references that I'm going to give today to you are in a file that I'm gonna give you in the end of the lecture with the links to our cloud drive, so you can download all the files and you can read them or learn them or evaluate for yourself. Okay, and also I'm gonna give you this presentation. So I will share this presentation and the file with references at the end of this lecture. The first thing that I want to differentiate here is the difference between NSAIDA and data. So NSAIDA means embroidered reports, false reports, embellished reports, not correct data. And data is data, it's not opinion. Data, not NSAIDA, brings about action. All NSAIDA does is cut the lines. So we have seen, in my opinion, a lot of embroidered reports in the time of Corona. And gosh, did we have the lines cut, right? Did you experience the cut com lines with your relatives, with your grandfather, with, with the colleagues of yours. The next distinction I would like to introduce is the difference between a fact and an opinion, okay? So a fact is something that can be proven to exist by visible evidence. So if something to be considered a fact, we need to see the evidence of it. Now, an opinion is something which may or may not be based on any facts, okay? So I've heard a lot of opinions about this crisis, you know, this unprecedented crisis, terrible pandemic, huge devastating consequences, which is not necessarily true unless you can be shown a visible evidence. Okay, now how we would investigate, we as a private people, how we would lead our investigation in this or any other crisis. Now, at first glance, omitted data would seem to be the block. On the contrary, it is the end product of an investigation and is what pulls an investigation along. One is looking for omitted data. So when we try to investigate something, we need to ask ourselves, what data do we miss? What don't we understand? What data are we missing in our logic, in our thinking? So for me, for example, just an example, omitted data was, is the threat of the coronavirus as high as reported, right? That's something that I did not know. So there are two breakthroughs actually that have been made here in the old age philosophic subject of logic. The first is finding a datum of comparable magnitude to the subject. A single datum or subject has to have a datum or subject with which to compare it before it can be fully understood. Okay, so if we want to buy a good car, how do we know that a car is good? Well, we need to compare it at least to another car or to a set of cars. So for this purpose, I pulled a table that I found in the Wikipedia article about 2009 flu pandemic, which was called swine pandemic, okay? And here is a table of different pandemics that happened on our planet recently. And, you know, and we can compare, this data with our current data. Let's not take this more, you know, more far pandemics, because the level of medicine for first was different, and also the level of media was different back then. Well, let's take something that is very close to coronavirus pandemic, which is 2009 flu pandemic. So this table gives number of people infected and deaths worldwide, right? This the entire population of the planet. So the data is that in 2009, we had 700 millions up to 1.4 billion people infected with swine flu on the planet. And the estimation of deaths is 151,000 up till more than 500 million people worldwide. Now, this is interesting. They say it's not pandemic, but this is an interesting datum. Typical seasonal flu, okay, people are so infected by one estimation from 340 million up to billion, and by this estimation up to 1.6 billion people. And death toll is 290,000 up to 650,000 people, and each year. Now, what you see from the right is current statistics I took this screenshot on 1st of May 2020 from World Health Organization site. So you can see that confirmed cases are over 3 million people and reported deaths are 224,000 people. So omitted data for me here in this situation. What is different about this pandemic that gets so much media attention, right? Now, have a look here. 1.4 billion people were infected, with this illness. Did you hear about it? Does anyone know about it? I didn't know about it. I never heard about it, About up to 500,000 people died. Nobody heard about it. Nobody made a fuss about it. So how can it be in this situation that we are getting so much media attention to this freaking pandemic, We are here gonna read the next reference. So valid answers may only be attained in using valid data. Well, that's very logical, right? If you're using a wrong data, you're arriving to wrong answers. So my next submitted data, are the statistics of WHO reliable? Is WHO a reliable source? Okay, yeah, I want to know who gives me the data and if it's correct. So in the same article about swine flu pandemic, I'm reading a critique on WHO, and it reads this way. In January 2010, Wolfgang Wodarg, a German deputy who trained as a physician, so this guy is a doctor, and now chairs the health committee at the Council of Europe. So he's a high official of health-related committee, claimed major firms had organized a campaign of panic. Does it ring the bell to somebody? To put pressure on the World Health Organization to declare a false pandemic to sell vaccines. Wodarg said the WHO's false pandemic flu campaign is one of the greatest medicine scandals of the century. Well, he didn't know nothing at that time. The guys got much more competent this time. He argued that the WHO, in cooperation with some big pharmaceutical companies and their scientists, redefined pandemics. Now, removing the statement that enormous amount of people have contracted the illness or died from its existing definition and replacing it by stating simply there has to be a virus spreading beyond borders and to which people have no immunity. Okay, so here is alterations started, right? And from enormous amount of people, we're arriving to spreading beyond borders and to which people have no immunity. I mean, I don't know much in medicine, but I think that the new virus, nobody has immunity to it, If a person wasn't infected and didn't get the virus, wasn't ill with the virus, how can he be immune to it? So any new virus will start a pandemic. And this is a little bit that exists in a Russian version of the article, so I translated it to English. The report blames the World Health Organization, the European governments, and some EU institutions for taking action that resulted in the waste of public money and arousing unwarranted fear with the population, right? It's exactly what happens these days, right? We can conclude that WHO is not really a reliable source, correct? Now, who is my most reliable source? You probably know this picture, right? I don't need Google, my wife knows everything. So it happens that my wife is a nurse in a Haifa hospital, and she worked for more than 20 years in emergency room, and she saw all the kinds of flus that you possibly imagine. Swine flu, bird flu, dog flu, I don't know. She knew it all. She's not working in the emergency room now, but she was asked for this crisis to go to the special coronavirus emergency room. Okay, so now here is verbal data from my wife. I want you to know it because we later gonna find some written evidence. So stats in Haifa, 30 severe cases. So at a given moment in all of the 3 big Haifa hospitals, there were only 30 severe cases for a population of 500,000 people, which means, you know, 0.0006%, right? So this is the data, you know, the travels in the hospitals, they know what's going on, and they keep in hospitals only severe cases, irregular cases they are sending home. And also hospital policy, which is also verbal, whenever somebody has symptoms similar to coronavirus, but a negative result after the coronavirus test, you still consider this person a coronavirus patient. So if somebody has breathing problems or a temperature or symptoms very similar to coronavirus symptoms, so statistically, they consider them to be a coronavirus patient, or you know, or somebody who was infected with coronavirus. So eventually, I got hold of a reference of a written data that actually supports what my wife said. And you can find this data following the link I provided. You will get all the links at the end of the lecture. And this is actually a manual for doctors, for medical people, how to write death certificate, a very important you know, job, writing death certificates. So there is an entire manual, it's about 20 pages long. I will not bore you with it, but let's look at very interesting data. So a quote from the manual says, a death due to COVID-19, now COVID is coronavirus disease, that's how disease is coded, is defined for surveillance purposes as a death resulting from a clinically compatible illness in a probable or confirmed COVID-19 case, unless there is a clear alternative cause of death that cannot be related to COVID disease. All right, now, okay, so look here. So clinically compatible illness, what does it mean? It's not necessarily the same illness. All you have to have is compatible, that the symptoms would be the same or similar. And you don't need to confirm it. If you think, if a doctor guesses, thinks, I don't know, he wakes up in the morning and he thinks, wow, my patients are probably infected by coronavirus disease, he should write on the death certificate that a person has died from coronavirus, which may be not the case. It may be bronchitis, it may be any other disease that looks like coronavirus disease. Now we see a example of such a document, and you can see a person has some you know, respiratory disease, and then he has pneumonia, and then on 12 days, nobody suspected it before that, but on the 12 days, he suspected coronavirus disease and he dies. Well, you should write this as underlying cause of death. Doesn't matter this disease, it doesn't matter. As soon as doctor suspects coronavirus, that's it. That's the cause of death. So now the next acceleration reference, back of wrong data. It's obviously we have wrong data about coronavirus because first of all, the reason of death is being falsified. The number of infected people is being falsified. And also this time they did an insane amount of medical checks, you know. In 2009, in swine flu pandemic, nobody was medically checked, you know. So it's obviously wrong data. So back of wrong data, you will normally find an impure intent. So that somebody is giving you false reports is an evaluation in itself. So when you're receiving false reports from somebody, only this thing can lead you into conclusion, you know, well, guy is lying to me, so what should I, you know, why should I be his friend, or why should I trust him, right? My conclusion is the coronavirus threat is highly exaggerated, okay? So I see it's not real stats, not real data. So for me, no need to investigate further. Why? So it brings us to next acceleration reference. This time is from book Problems of Work, chapter The Secret of Efficiency. However, control in itself is not an entire answer to everything. For if it were, one would have to be able to control everything, not only in his own job, but in an office or on Earth before he could be happy. We discover in examining control that the limits of control should be extended only across one's actual sphere of operation. So my actual sphere of operation is giving people auditing, making them more happy, more rational. When an individual attempts to extend control far beyond his active interest in a job or in life, he encounters difficulty. Thus, there is a limit to the area of control, which, if violated, violates many things. There is almost a maxim that if an individual consistently seeks to operate outside his own department, he will not take care of his own department. So if I would, you know, running around and searching for, don't know what, some other solution than giving auditing to people, I would stop giving auditing to people, and I will, you know, I will be in treason to my post. Thus, there is obviously another factor involved than control. This factor is willingness not to control and is fully as important as control itself. Now, I'm not telling you to go to apathy and not to do anything. If you want to protest, protest. If you want, you know, to influence it in any way you want, fine. I'm just telling my own example about myself. And I will give you in that of the lecture my way of thinking how we can prevent this crisis from occurring.